The beauty of the age that we're in right now is that there is so much information available to us, but sometimes it can be overwhelming. Which book should you read? Which podcast should you listen to? Who is the actual expert? But ultimately, what it all boils down to is you are the expert of you. And until you know what works for you and you have a system to know what works for you, it doesn't matter which book you read or which podcast you watch or which expert you follow, because you are not connected to yourself. I want you to imagine that you're at a buffet. Now, if you've never been to a buffet, please just play along. I used to love going to the buffets in Vegas, and I am such a sweet eater that I would always start at the dessert. But imagine I'm just standing in the front of this buffet and I'm looking at all the wonderful options, but there's one big problem. There's absolutely no plates in sight. So I see all these wonderful things that I want to eat, but I have no way of gathering them up and taking them back to my table. Now, I'm pretty creative and I problem solve very well. So if I was really determined, I would probably just pile things into my hands or snack as I went. I'd figure it out, and I'm sure you do too. But your plate is the thing that is going to hold all those things together. And this program, the 21 Days to Less Stress, is really like your plate. So while you have an abundance of information available to you, you need a container to put it on or in. And so that's what we teach you. We teach you some of those pieces of information. We provide some of the tools for you, but really what the goal of this program is to give you a foundation. It's to give you that plate that you can add on your physical well-being resources. You can add in your mental health well-being resources. You can layer in sleep approaches, relationship experts, whatever it is that you want to work on and the place that you want to start from. But until you know what it is that you need, until you're really connected to yourself and you have that ability to monitor, is this working for me? Is this reducing my stress or is it increasing my stress? Then none of that stuff matters, right? So we start with the plate first. So having the plate at the buffet not only makes life easier, it just makes eating more efficient, right? And so that's what this program will do. Your tastes, your preferences will change over time. You might need to focus on sleep now and then focus on relationships later or work stress. The program will work for you regardless of what your goal is and what area of your life you're seeking to improve. Again, it's just a framework for you to recognize, what is my stress? Is the thing that I'm doing reducing my stress? Is it maintaining my stress at the same level, or is it increasing my stress? And that is a feature that most people don't teach you. Just like we have varying food preferences, we all have our own unique needs, and this program will support you regardless of what your need is. Take Anna, for example. She wanted to get back to being a fun mom. I've been there myself and I feel so much compassion for her. She recognized that she was becoming really rigid. She couldn't take on new requests from her family members, and she was just feeling burnt out as a caregiver and as the leader of her family. And so she recognized that her stress was actually a lot higher than she had acknowledged. And by doing our stress thermometer, she was able to accurately evaluate how much stress she had. And then she also used that stress thermometer to rate her daily stress levels and know when she needed to prioritize self-care or when she could take on more demands of family life. When she used that strategy, she was able to get back to being a more spontaneous, fun mom, just like she wanted to. We also have Lizette, who identified as running on stress. She was fueled by the what ifs and the racing thoughts, and she wanted something different. So she started with the daily structure. She started journaling. She brought in more mindfulness practices, increased the amount of time that she exercised and did yoga. She took a lot of action, and that is the way that you reduce your stress, through daily action. But she made sure that the action was the right action. And then she learned, as being part of this community, that she wasn't alone. She wasn't the only one experiencing stress, experiencing racing thoughts. And she learned that she can not only find ways of reducing her stress, but she could do it in a supportive community. We also have Mark. Mark found him in a tough season of life, and I think most of us can appreciate that. Not all of us experience stress day in, day out, or chronic high stress. But Mark found himself in this place where life just got a little bit tougher and he needed new tools, new strategies. And so he found the 21 Days to Less Stress to be an easy to use program, which when you have a lot of stress, you don't want to take on a new difficult task. He found it really easy to use and the tools easy to implement. And as a result, he was able to change his relationship with stress, change his thinking about stress and recognize that he actually did have more control over it than he imagined, and ultimately was able to reduce his stress. So I don't know about you, but when I go to a buffet, we're going back to that buffet metaphor. When I go to a buffet, I usually have a game plan, right? I know that I need to eat my veggies. I know that I should probably eat some protein, but I'm for sure gonna save room for desserts. Again, I have a sweet tooth. So this program is just your game plan. We call it a stress strategy, and we really help walk you through how to conceptualize stress in a new way so that you can, one, understand what your stress looks like, because it's different for all of us and it changes over time, but those tools are not going to change. So whether or not your stress gets more intense or it reduces intensity, you're still going to use the same tools. Once you know what your stress looks like, then you're going to take action, and that's the only way to reduce your stress. So you'll take daily action to bring stress levels down, and then you'll use those same mindfulness tools to evaluate if what you did worked, because that's really important. We don't want to just go for a walk and then not know if our stress has come down. We want to get to know ourselves so well that we know, yes, this thing that I did worked. I'm in a better place. Here's how the program will help you create a plan to manage stress. You'll identify both your stressors and your stress. Most of my clients that I work with usually underestimate both of these areas, their stressors and their stress. Identifying stress is more than just having a robust emotional vocabulary. It is, well, one, having the emotional vocabulary, but then two, being able to describe what that experience is. So even if I say I'm overwhelmed, I need to describe in as much detail what overwhelmed means for me, because it's different for me than it is for you. And then I need to know how to rate the intensity of that. So overwhelmed at a 3 looks much different than an overwhelmed at a 7, and my needs are much different when I'm at a 3 versus a 7. And so we will help you with lots of different activities, figure all that out, so that way you can take the appropriate action to reduce your stress.